The Chan, or Zen school, sometimes calls itself the school of consciousness. In other words, it teaches the nature of consciousness. There is a famous set of drawings that show one paradigm or one possible model for the path of coming to understand the nature of your consciousness. And it's called the 10 ox herding pictures, Shi Niao Tu in Mandarin pronunciation, Ju Yuzu in the Sino-Japanese. Niao means an ox, and the ox symbolizes the nature of consciousness. So they call it the Xin Niao, okay, the ox of consciousness, or the Sam Ngao. Do I have it right? How close? How do you say it? Sam Ngao. Pretty good, pretty close. That was a guess on the Cantonese. Sam Ngao. So the consciousness symbolized by the ox. But to understand consciousness, in other words, experience, our senses, is also enlightenment. So the 10 ox herding pictures can be interpreted in two different ways. One is they show you stages on the path to enlightenment. The other is they show you the process of understanding or truly grasping what consciousness is. But of course, those are exactly the same thing. I don't know if you can all see this, but this is the first picture. And this is called Searching for the Ox. Notice that there is no ox to be found. The Chinese verse that goes with this says, "The ox-herding boy is completely lost." There's no trace of the ox. There's only the cicadas chirping. Do you understand who the ox-herding boy is and what the cicadas chirping? This is the situation of most people on this planet at this time, unfortunately. They know they want something, but what they think they want is not what they really want. Everyone's searching, okay? Like that song goes, everybody's looking for something, okay? But what people think they want is happiness dependent on conditions. But what they really want is happiness independent of conditions, symbolized by the enlightenment ox, or the consciousness, the nature of consciousness ox. But there's no ox at all, not even any trace of the ox. He's just wandering around, searching for something, looking for something, and just hearing the twittering of the cicadas, which is unfortunately the situation for most people. Some people, though, in their wanderings, get fortunate. They see the tracks of something. They haven't seen the nature of consciousness. They haven't seen the ox. They haven't experienced enlightenment. But something gives them an indication that there is this possibility. Maybe they heard a Dharma talk. Maybe they had some experience when they were little that they never forgot, or when they were grown up. Maybe they had a friend that came to a retreat, etc., etc. They get some indication that there's another possibility beyond the transient fulfillment of the twittering world. So this is called seeing the footprints. Every one of you has seen the footprints, or you wouldn't be here. You might guess what the next step is. He sees the tail on the ox, the tush, and a few hairs of the tail. Hasn't really seen the whole ox yet. But can you see? There's the tush and the tail. And it's like, oh my God, it really exists. I haven't seen it all, but I have seen a little piece of it. Most of you are in this category. You haven't, maybe, or at least in this category. You've gone beyond just seeing the footprints, okay? You've actually gotten a little visage of who you really are. Or you wouldn't have survived 2 weeks in silence. So you've seen the ox. But that's not catching the ox. You see, he's got the whole ox, and he's got a hold of it. Now, we could say that this would be perhaps one's first glimpse of no self, stream entry, or Kensho type experience. You've actually seen the whole ox, the nature of consciousness, which is no thingness. And you've got a handle on it, but it's still running wild. But at least you've captured the ox. And it's in your ken. You can see it anytime you want. But that's a far cry from taming the ox. Okay? In other words, you internalize the enlightenment to the point where it can't slip away from you and doesn't run wild. Okay? It follows you. And as wonderful as that is, that cannot be compared to getting on the ox, actually riding it. This is awesome. People are really afraid of this. It's one thing to see the ox, even to catch it, even to sort of get it to be manageable. This is the ox of consciousness, okay? The samngao, okay? When it comes to riding on the ox, that's scary. Some of you are facing this, this stage. If you look carefully, you'll see the ox is going this way. You see the boy? He's playing a flute, quite relaxed, but he's looking the other way. He's riding the ox backwards. Do you understand? Okay? There's no informed consent to enlightenment. Enlightenment is better than you think it is, and not nearly what it's cracked up to be. Which one of those did you want to hear? Both, or one, both, or neither? Enlightenment is like continually falling off a cliff, and being completely comfortable with that. A great and powerful beast carries you, and you have to give up your investment with where it's going. It's the ultimate act of surrender, riding the ox backwards. The flow of impermanence. It's like falling down, but you don't fall down. You fall up into existence moment by moment, which is what pratitya samutpada means. It's a falling, but a falling up without any fixation, without needing to know what's going to happen next. You simply fall into what needs to be done moment by moment. So this might be called the act of true faith, as opposed to belief, which is holding on to something. Faith is letting go of the need to be oriented, the need to have answers. You simply let the flow of expansion. This is surrendering to the flow of expansion and contraction. Riding on the wave of the dynamic wave of nothing whatsoeverness, and letting it carry you. So that's quite a profound act of faith. What comes next? The ox has now carried you home. He's home. Okay? And he's completely at rest. He's found final repose of the spirit in his home. And the ox is gone. Only who he really was remains. Just the person. That true, authentic human with no fixated position whatsoever. And no more need for a mind as an object. He's home. He rode the ox home. Complete enlightenment. Nirvana. But there's 3 more pictures. What could they possibly stand for? Well, if you read the books, they give you various explanations. But I was privileged to discuss these pictures with a Japanese Zen master many years ago, who told me that there's an oral tradition about these 10 pictures that has not been written down. According to this Roshi's oral tradition, the last 3 of these ox herding pictures tell us the substance, the appearance, and the ultimate use of enlightenment. So you can hardly wait, right? Substance is coming up first. What it's made out of, the matter. The matter itself. And here is the substance of enlightenment. No substance whatsoever. Right? When the emperor asked Bodhidharma, what is the first principle of holiness? What did Bodhidharma say? Wide open and nothing holy. What's the form of enlightenment? The mountains and the cherry blossoms, the ordinary appearances of the world, every single thing is the appearance of enlightenment. And what's the use of enlightenment? Why do we do this? Why do we bust our buns? Well, actually, it's not the use of enlightenment, it's the ultimate use of enlightenment, the final cause. In the end, why do we do this? In the beginning, we might do it out of curiosity, out of desperation, out of wanting to get high in some way. Who knows, okay? Maybe relief of suffering, maybe find out who we really are. These are all have their validity. So in the beginning, there could be many causes for us to take on this practice. But the final cause, the arete, when you get right down to it, what is it going to be about? This is my favorite and the last. Essentially, the Chinese version of Santa Claus. Roly-poly guy with a bag full of goodies, going into the marketplace, handing them out to anyone who wants to take them. Very ordinary, okay? The kind of person you wouldn't hesitate to talk to. The kind of person you might not think even was in any way special, unless you knew what to look for. This is actually a historical character, someone that existed in Chinese history. He was known as the cloth bag monk. And that's essentially what he was. A bag man, a street person. No, you know how some of you come from Santa Monica, okay? You know how there's sort of like celebrity street people, okay? There's like certain ones that you know, you even see them in cartoons and things. Well, in the capital of China, in the Tang Dynasty, Chang'an was the capital. It's now known as Xi'an. Some of you have been there. It's in the far western part of China. Anyway, in the capital of China, during the Tang Dynasty in Chang'an, there was this well-known sort of street person that was a kind of Buddhist monk. But all he did was play with children all day. And just hang out in the marketplace and schmooze with people. And everybody knew him, and he was just sort of this like friendly guy and, you know, easy to get along with. You'd never really think there was anything all that special. And he was always just sort of around for people. Particularly like to give out gifts to children, things like that. And at night he used to sleep in the snow. That should have been a giveaway right there, that there was something a little unusual about his physiology that may have been the result of something. He was known to the citizens of Chang'an, and they called him the Bu Dai Heshang. Bu means cloth, Dai means bag, and Heshang means a monk, the cloth bag monk, because he carried around these gifts to give to people. The emperor of China at that time was a Buddhist and a meditator who had his own imperial preceptor, his own sort of master, right? Who would have been like the most authoritative monk in China of the time. So one morning, they call that the Guoshi. That's the teacher of the emperor. So one morning, the Guoshi said, "Your Majesty, I don't know if you're aware or not, but the most enlightened subject in your kingdom died this morning." And the emperor said, "Who?" And the imperial master said, "The cloth bag monk." The emperor couldn't believe it, because it was like, that was the most enlightened person in my kingdom? Because everybody just took him for granted. So this becomes a sort of ideal for what an enlightened person should be like. Very ordinary, very easily approachable, just they're there for you, nothing all that special, no, not in the Indic formulation. An enlightened being is a god, is an archetype. But in the Chinese formulation, the enlightened being is a sort of pudgy, easily approached guy hanging out in the streets, available to people, but with these gifts to give. So this is called, this last picture is called entering the marketplace with hand outstretched. We may start this path for various reasons, but if we stay on it, in the end, this is where we end up. We end up with what's called the Dao Xin in Chinese, the bodhicitta, the intense call to be of service to our fellow beings in one way or another. It's an automatic consequence of having understood the nature of consciousness, the nature of my mind, which is the nature of nature, the nature of the source. It's an automatic consequence of knowing that your source is everyone's source. But knowing that for real, not in a sort of feel-good belief kind of way, but in a very tangible way, moment by moment, really inescapable in your moment-by-moment perceptions of things. So we're coming now to the end of our retreat, just one more day actually. We're going to be going into the marketplace when we leave here, metaphorically. And in various ways, each of us in his or her own way, we have a bag full of goodies. And we can go with hand outstretched. Not that we're going to lay any trips on anybody, but you have a gift to give, the gift of the effects of your practice. You may never speak about it explicitly, but your pores will. The pores of your skin, that's teaching. That's going into the marketplace, giving a gift to people. If somebody asks you what you did and you're capable of giving a reasonable, logical, coherent description of this practice, you're giving a gift to someone. And some of you already, and many of you eventually, will discover that you'll end up actually teaching. Maybe one or two people, or maybe more people. You may have heard the cliche, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Well, I don't know about that, but I can definitely tell you that when the teacher's ready, the students appear. And you may notice that happening to you. Do not be alarmed. And understand that in the end, this is the final goal of this practice. So I leave you with that.